40 million dead. The Eastern Front became the largest and deadliest theater in history. The death toll ran into the tens of millions. This loss equaled the entire population of France in 1940. Then came Kursk. Thousands of heavy tank engines roared. The deafening noise consumed the wide-open fields. Steel clashed. Between 30 and 40 million people perished overall. Soviet armor advanced. Armored columns crushed the shattered streets of ruined Berlin. The besieged capital burned. Retribution showed no mercy. Civilians died. The final death count stopped at exactly 40 million.
How did a single military conflict reach 40 million victims?
Through the state doctrines of the Third Reich and the Soviet Union. Traditional wars were fought to capture territory. This war was fought for extermination. Germany and the Soviet command designed a campaign of annihilation across the Eastern Front. The battle line stretched 2,400 kilometers, from the Baltic to the Black Sea. Along this massive spine, ideological fervor erased all military limits. Frontline units rarely took prisoners, they executed them. Death squads moved right behind the main advancing forces. They entered conquered villages. Soldiers methodically shot unarmed civilians.
Grenades fly through wall breaches.
Soviet troops hold one room, German infantry holds the next. An explosion rocks the floor. Men engage in hand-to-hand combat. This state strategy worked. It turned major European industrial centers into mass graves. Soldiers lived in frozen basements. Stench of dysentery choked them. Unwashed bodies rotted nearby. One German soldier remembered the sickness. Diarrhea destroyed them. Men stopped wearing trousers. Death came fast. In Stalingrad, a new Soviet private survived less than 24 hours. Leningrad and Stalingrad burned. Buildings became strategic meat grinders. Front lines disappeared entirely. Armies and civilians merged. Crossfire slaughtered trapped families. Starvation killed thousands daily. Ruins offered zero protection. Disease spread rapidly. 3 years later, this exact urban hell consumed Berlin in 1945. No escape existed. Desperate refugees froze to death across the open fields outside the city limits.
Commanders threw unarmed soldiers against fortified positions,
intending to suppress heavy enemy fire purely through the sheer mass of human bodies. Frozen urban ruins formed only half the strategic picture. Across the open steppes, the infantry itself became an expendable resource. Whole Soviet battalions advanced across exposed terrain without adequate rifles or tactical support. They charged directly toward entrenched artillery and machine gun nests. The continuous mechanical crackle of German weapons tore through the advancing lines. These emplacements unleashed over 1,200 rounds per minute, cutting down the front ranks within seconds. Yet the assaults never stopped. Subsequent waves stepped over the fallen and pressed the attack forward. Retreat offered no salvation, as officers executed those who hesitated or turned back. German gunners went insane. Why did a German sniper shoot his own comrade? To stop a public torture session. The icy urban hell worsened daily. Surrender meant death. Soviet soldiers shot captives on sight. The Geneva Conventions ceased to exist. Prisoners faced two dark paths: summary executions in the snow, or decades of penal labor. Winter death marches claimed countless lives. Columns walked for frozen miles. Guards executed the slow. The weak froze. Bodies littered roads. A captured German knelt in the mud. He sat yards from the Soviet lines. A metallic crackle pierced the cold air. Loudspeakers broadcasted the screams across the battlefield. A female interrogator conducted the torture. His unit watched helplessly from their dugouts. Nobody could help. A sniper steadied his rifle. He aligned the glass crosshairs. He targeted his bleeding friend. He fired once. The agony ended. He chambered another heavy round. He shot the interrogator dead. Captivity became a calculated extermination tool. Men vanished entirely. Soviet labor camps swallowed nearly 3 million captives. They dug coal in Siberia. They rebuilt shattered cities. Combat officially ended in 1945, but the punishment continued. The release came a full decade later. The last surviving prisoners went home in 1955.
Every blade of grass was eaten down to the bare earth. Desperate men consumed vegetation within arm's reach beyond the barbed wire. However, these mass executions and purposeful starvation campaigns did not merely emerge during the bitter conclusion of the conflict. This ruthless practice was established by the German command at the very dawn of the invasion in 1941. The traditional status of a protected prisoner of war dissolved entirely upon contact with the Eastern Front. Men were simply herded into open fields, surrounded by machine gun towers, and left to perish from exposure. The invading forces viewed these captives not as defeated equals, but as livestock destined for systematic extermination. This ideological doctrine shattered the foundation of international military law and provoked a merciless retaliatory slaughter. The complete obliteration of conventional rules reached its climax when the command encountered Soviet women in combat roles.
Driven by ideological rage, military leadership officially stripped female combatants of all prisoner rights and ordered their immediate execution on the spot. What forced regular armies to forget the established rules of warfare? The documentary foundation for extermination orders emerged from a violent clash of two irreconcilable state ideologies. German propaganda pushed the Eastern Front beyond international legal norms. State rhetoric officially branded the enemy as dirty animals. Soviet campaigns responded by demanding total resistance against these monstrous invaders. Empathy died entirely. Indoctrination conditioned regular troops for war crimes. No mercy remained. The sieged cities became destroyed ruins. Where did the partisan detachments in the deep rear originate? This ideological hatred spilled over the front, transforming the remnants of shattered Soviet divisions and local residents into a massive resistance force. Guerrilla networks deliberately shattered logistics by burying hidden explosives directly beneath the steel rails of German supply trains. These clandestine rear echelons coordinated their sabotage operations directly with the regular command structures of the Red Army. Such calculated destruction inevitably provoked punitive expeditions directed entirely against the unarmed civilian population. Surviving villagers were consequently driven straight into the forested guerrilla camps. The spiral of violence closed. How did ideological propaganda become actual practice? Executions began. Many millions died. The military front moved steadily forward. Death squads followed. These were the infamous Einsatzgruppen. SS and police personnel formed their ranks. They ruthlessly cleared the conquered space. Jews died first. Communists fell next. Entire local demographics vanished completely. Over 2 million victims perished. Ideology bred pure extermination. These death squads advanced deeply into the ruined territories of the Eastern Front. Soldiers torch their own supply barns. They detonate concrete bridge pillars during a frantic retreat. These incoming death squads conducted their purges on lands already stripped of all basic survival conditions. Following Stalin's strict directive, the retreating Red Army systematically dismantled vast transport networks. Thick smoke from burning grain stocks completely obscured the ruined railway stations. They weaponized the landscape itself. The military deliberately destroyed essential winter shelters and civilian heating infrastructure. They struck right before extreme cold hit. The harsh winter of 1941 brought temperatures crashing down to -40 degrees Celsius. Without structural protection, the freezing weather turned instantly lethal for the locals. Civilians lost everything. Total infrastructure destruction created an uninhabitable wasteland. Entire towns burned to ash. The civilian population starved in the frozen ruins. When the tide of war eventually turned, retreating German forces repeated the exact same widespread devastation. Ultimately, two opposing armies deployed this identical scorched earth tactic across one single territory. Where did 3 million soldiers on the eastern border come from? On the 22nd of June 1941, Berlin initiated the largest military invasion in human history. This entire chain of infrastructural destruction was triggered by a single decision at the onset of summer. Operation Barbarossa launched a swift blitzkrieg advance that would soon degenerate into a multi-year catastrophe. 3 million troops represented a mobilized force larger than the entire population of Ireland at that time. The disaster began when armored columns and marching infantry crossed the eastern frontier.